Blocking is the process of setting the finish size or evening out the stitches of any knit, swatch, panel, garment piece. It's a laundering process that must take place before we measure the gauge swatches and establish our gauge. To block the single jersey and 1x1 rib gauge swatch, I find it easier to start with the purl side facing up. The purl side, which is the side of the knitting that you see when you're sitting at the machine, can be identified because the selvage edge stitches will roll towards the purl side. Using the blocking mats in the studio and any pin that doesn't have a plastic ball head on it, unfurl the edges and pin it following the grid of the blocking mat below. We don't want to stretch or distort the swatch when we're blocking. We're only aiming to square up the piece and get the edges to lie flat with the help of pins before we steam. Only pin down the single jersey portion of this combined gauge swatch. We don't want to pin out or stretch out the 1x1 rib section. It already lays flat and relatively square on its own. It just needs steamed, no pins. After you've pin blocked the edges, make sure that the measurable area that's identified by the marker rows and the marker stitches is nice and square. Pin the half fisherman's rib swatch. It should already naturally lay pretty flat. We just want to get some steam into the yarn to set everything up. It's also a great opportunity here to make sure that that measurable area is again square. Bring your blocked pieces to any of the ironing stations in studio and steam block the pieces. Because we're knitting with acrylic yarn, you cannot touch the hot iron to the knit goods themselves. Hold the iron about an inch above the surface of your work and steam liberally. After steaming, permit the swatches to rest as they're pinned right on the board until they're completely dry. Once you remove the pins, you should notice that the swatches lay much flatter. The half fisherman's rib and the 1x1 rib are going to lay flat no matter what. The jersey will still curl up a bit around the edges, but again, it's that measurable area that we're really after perfecting, and that should lay nice and flat. Don't overhandle your gauge swatches. Once they've been blocked, put them in the lid of your machine and walk away till we measure them.